Hi guys, welcome to Work For It Wednesday, episode 2 of a 4-part series with ankle stability. Last week we talked about the different kinds of dysfunctions, and today we're going to go into a little more detail with the second part of the 4-part series for ankle stability. We're going to talk a little bit about balance and proprioception. So we're going to dive into a little more detail on the big toe and how that affects your balance and proprioception. I have with me today my sister, Steph Weiss. She's a physiotherapist in Lethbridge, Alberta. And behind the camera is my brother Rylan. So they're in town for Christmas. So we're doing a little shoot here for Work For It Wednesday. So we'll talk a little bit about the big toe. So the biggest thing that we want to address with the big toe is how much flexion we're getting on that big toe and how that affects your gait, your balance, jumping, and movement in general. What we want to try to go for is with an active gait cycle, you're looking for, it uses about 30 degrees of that plantar flexion at that joint of the metatarsal. What we want is actually ideally would be between 60 and 75 degrees range of motion. So what I'm talking about there, that actual movement is something that gets lost a lot with athletes, especially when you're doing a lot of running or high repetition type activity, because you can kind of get away without using it. But what that does is it causes dysfunction up the kinetic chain. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're saying here. So with the big toe, so you can see on Steph here, we're talking about the flexion here. So we're talking about plantar flexion of the metatarsal in relation to the great toe here. So what we're talking about is this movement right here. A lot of times that gets lost with athletes. So we're going to go through a 3-part series of progressions on how we can improve that. Start off, and like I said, there's a lot of different dysfunctions that can happen with the big toe. We're just going to talk today about what we can do as far as balance and how that or the base of support can be affected by some of the flexion in here, and how we can improve or reestablish that neural input into this actual joint that might not have been used properly for the last 6-7 years, depending on how long you've been doing your sport. So I'll get Steph to stand up and just face the wall, and we'll get you just to go up onto your tiptoes and press up. Okay, good. So you can see how when she goes up onto her tiptoes there, you can get one more shot of that, right? You can see how a lot of the weight distribution goes onto the outside 3 or 4 digits, and there's a little bit of a avoidance of putting some pressure on the big toe. You can come down, Steph. So that's one sign that we're looking that there might not be that proper dorsiflexion or plantar flexion, depending on which one you're talking about, in that joint. So what we're looking for is to improve that. So the first thing that we can do is it's just an open chain exercise. So go ahead and sit down, Steph. An open chain exercise that will help to increase some of the range of motion in this joint by basically just reestablishing that this is the movement that needs to happen. So when I say plantar flexion, I'm talking about this first metatarsal plantar flexing here, getting that glide, and then dorsiflexing at the great toe right there. And then just going back and forth like this. This is really great for people who've had turf toe before. That's actually something that you can do to try to reestablish this. If you've got turf toe, a lot of times you can get away with avoiding that, and then you'll notice that you'll get injuries in the future. So yeah, what I would recommend is doing this. You can do it on your own, or you can get someone to help you out, and just doing that about 30 times. You can progress this to more of a closed chain exercise. So go ahead and lay on your back, Steph. With the closed chain exercise, what you can do is just get them to bend at 90 degrees in their hip and then 90 degrees in their knee. And then it's just going to mimic what your stride would be. So go ahead and push off, just like that. And then what you want to do is just kind of guide that glide. So go ahead and push back down, push off. So just kind of match your thumb up to that first metatarsal and just guide that glide over top of that joint. And do that about 10 times to help reestablish that proper movement. The last thing that you can do that I've found pretty effective, go ahead and stand up, is closed chain again, and you can put this between your ankles, kind of rested between your medial malleoli.
Upwards like this?
Yep, just like that. And then go ahead and just press off onto your toes again. And you can see that it's a little bit more forced to use that medial side and to use that range of motion in the big toe, because now she has to hold an object between her ankles. So this is going to help to reestablish that movement as well, and it's going to be in a closed chain. Alright, well that's about it. Just a little tip that you guys can do to try to get some get some more movement and reestablish that neural input into that joint. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next week for part 3 of part 4 for ankle stability.